You're listening to Big World Network.
Accidental Passion, Episode 4, The Parking Lot, read by Meagan Hedin. Warning! Although there is no material subject matter within that couldn't be found in any general bookstore with no age constraint, this series is rated 18 and contains adult situations and content. It is intended for mature audiences only and should not be read if you are uncomfortable with graphic sexual intimacy. Ryan was forced to admit that Angela had correctly predicted that the fallout from the picture wasn't going to go away so quickly, not unless he addressed it directly. It had been a week like none other in his career, and every late-night talk show host had indeed been having fun with the story and image. Ryan had to admit many of the jokes were very funny. Even a weekend variety show had done a skit involving Ryan in various normal everyday situations, like standing in line at the checkout counter at the grocery store, with the checkout aisle shelves blocking the camera view from his waist on down. In each situation, the actor portraying Ryan had his eyes rolled back in obvious pleasure as he carried on normal conversations and tasks. Unfortunately, others were not appreciating the humorous view of it, and various religious and other groups were calling out for a boycott of his movies and books, citing the bad example he was setting for acceptable behavior. The hypocrisy of some of these groups had always troubled Ryan. They subversely preached hate and intolerance, but were always the first to condemn the others' actions, and gave Christianity a bad name, in his opinion. Finally giving in to Angela, he agreed to appear on The Late Late Show with Craig Ferguson, a host he held in high regard for his, albeit humorous, promotion and support of literature and the arts. Since Angela was in Detroit, the plan was for him to fly her and himself to Santa Monica later in the evening, and to record the Late Late Show segment the next morning at CBS Studios. It was important that he have this time now, he thought, as he drove into a big box store parking lot in a suburban neighborhood just off the highway. Having called ahead to the airport for them to ready his jet, he had told Angela he would meet her at 10 p.m. for their departure. Kim supposed she shouldn't have been surprised to receive the text message from Ryan asking if he could call her when it was safe. She knew about the picture of her under the fake desk while Ryan participated in the Q&A session. When she saw it for the first time, her initial reaction was one of relief that it wasn't possible to see it was her who was pleasuring Ryan. But very quickly her relief changed to guilt. Because of her actions, her judgment, the man she was falling in love with was faced with a media firestorm. And a firestorm it was. She had spent every evening in bed, Kevin asleep beside her, watching the evening's entertainment and talk shows, growing more and more frustrated that Ryan wasn't defending himself. This only added to her guilt, figuring he was avoiding it somehow to protect her, even though no one in the world except for Ryan knew it was her under the desk. Why hadn't he appeared on any shows? He could joke it off and put an end to it. Her guilt and frustration then began to turn to anger by midweek when a news organization ran a story about character in the media and cited the image and story as an example of setting a bad example for American values. On several occasions, she had actually picked up her cell phone to call him, but out of respect for his privacy and a desire to not add any fuel to the fire he must certainly be under, she had stopped herself. She didn't want to make things more complicated for him, and didn't want him to misunderstand her reason for calling. So when she had gotten the text from him, she was very eager to talk. It had almost seemed to her that he was relieved she wasn't angry with him. Despite her explaining and assuring him that she was concerned about him, and felt extremely bad, he showed no sign of being upset with her actions or of regret. From the little she had seen of him, she was fairly certain that he wasn't the type to have regrets, and focus on things out of his control. She had seen the same trait from the protagonists in his novels that she had been reading. Ryan was very adamant over the phone that he wanted to see her, and whispered on the other end, "I really need to see you. I want to see you." But she didn't need much convincing, her heart already racing at the prospect of being close to him again, and she agreed to meet him at a nearby parking lot of a big box store before he continued on his way to the airport. Ryan found the parking lot with no problem, and, with the sun already set and the large parking lot lights on, he drove to a far corner of the lot and found Kim's SUV. He had to admit to himself, aside from a short phone conversation and their short conversation on the flight they had met on, they had never really had a conversation before. He didn't often fill with self-doubt, but he couldn't help wondering if she would like his company now that she would have a chance to speak to him. Parking beside her driver's side door, he climbed out of his car and walked around the front of her door as Kim climbed out and the two met between the vehicles. As always, her beauty momentarily took his breath away, amazed that she still caused the same reaction in him despite the intimate moments they had shared. Unable to help himself, he brought his hands to either side of her face, running his fingers back into her hair and pulling her to his lips. He felt her slide her hands around his waist as her lips met with his. It had been so long since he had experienced a true, long, passionate kiss that he had forgotten how incredibly stimulating, sensual, and intimate it could be. Tasting her lips, feeling the tip of her tongue seek its way to his, and feeling her breath on his, was all very intoxicating as she pulled his body tighter against hers in the dark corner of the parking lot. As if worried she would get carried away before being able to talk, he felt Kim put a hand on his chest and gently pull back from him, looking up into his eyes. "I'm glad you're okay," she said, tenderly stroking his nipple through the shirt with her thumb. "I never meant for any of this to happen. If I had had any idea someone could have seen me, I never—" She was stopped mid-sentence when he placed his index finger over her lips. "I'm the one who needs to apologize. It's one of the few negative prices for being well-known publicly. I hate that you've been brought into this. I wanted to protect you from that part of my life, especially given your situation." "You're kidding, right?" She smiled up at him. "You have nothing to be sorry for, and I'm a big girl. You don't need to shield me from who you are and the life you live. I'm falling for you, and I not only accept your life, but want to share so much of it with you, to learn so much about you." She allowed her voice to trail off, making it clear to him that she was a little embarrassed about admitting how her feelings for him were expanding. "You are so perfect, Kim. I don't even know what to say." He kissed her lightly on the forehead. "But this media frenzy has gone on long enough. I thought it would just go away, but it hasn't." "I was amazed you have been so silent. Why have you not spoken out?" Kim asked. "To protect you. Or maybe because I just felt it was no one's business. The picture, despite being in a public place, was a violation of my privacy and was taken with the sole purpose of revealing something that was obviously hidden." "Do you have any idea who took it?" "No. Remember Woods?" "He saved my life. How could I forget him?" she replied with all sincerity. "Well, he is pretty damn good at what he does, and if anyone can find out, it's him." Kim was now leaning back against the side of her SUV, Ryan's body pressed tightly against her. They found each other's hands on both sides of their bodies and interlocked their fingers as they talked. "So you're going to L.A. tonight?" Kim asked, inches from his face. "Yes. I will tape the interview with Craig Ferguson tomorrow." "Will it air tomorrow night?" "I'm not sure," he replied, unable to resist bringing his lips to hers again. She let go of his hands and moved one hand to the back of his head, intertwining it in his hair as they kissed. "It's so nice to be together for a moment," Kim whispered. "I don't want it to end." "Me neither," was all he could say, their bodies tight against each other, the kiss growing in passion and fervor. He could tell Kim's passion and desire was growing as well, as she ran her hands down to his waist and reached inside his shirt, running it back up over his chest as they continued to kiss. Shielded by the two vehicles in the dark parking lot, Ryan undid the button and zipper on the front of her jeans and slid his hand around behind her, allowing enough room now to slide it inside, caressing her bottom. His breath was taken away when he felt that she was wearing a thong, as one of his fingers traced the material down as far as he could reach, the jeans still restricting his movement despite them being undone. With a hand on either side, he slid the jeans down, exposing the top part of her waist and hips. He wanted to kiss her there, but knew people walking out of the store on the other side of the parking lot might suspect there was more than just a couple kissing if they happened to look in their direction. He felt Kim's hands keeping just as busy on his body, the sensations of her activities combined with the continued, almost feverish kiss, causing him to lose all focus of the world around them, despite the fact they were in a corner of a very public parking lot. She had undone his jeans and slid her small fingers inside over his underwear, rubbing him. And then she slid her hand inside the flap of cotton, holding him, stroking him in his underwear. His desire had reached a point he had never before experienced. "I want you inside me. I want to feel you," Kim gasped between kisses as she pulled him tighter to her as they leaned against her SUV. Not even bothering to look around the parking lot, but glad they were in a darker corner, he slid her jeans down past her hips, leaving her milky skin exposed to the night air. He moved his hand back up the inside of her thigh and ran a finger over her on the top of her thong, feeling her wetness through the fabric, before pulling it down too, as Kim simultaneously pulled him completely out of his undone jeans. He felt her pull him closer, guiding him to her wet opening. Despite her legs being restricted by her jeans, she was able to guide him to her, and, for the first time, the two were joined as he slid inside her, sheathed by her silky warmth. Neither moved for a moment to savor the intense feeling as he filled her, and Kim looked up into his eyes. "I've wanted you inside me for so long," she whispered, once again bringing her lips to his before breaking them off to say, "I love you."
This has been a presentation of Big World Network. Visit us on bigworldnetwork.com for more free weekly series, or follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Thanks for listening.
You're listening to Big World Network.